Alright guys, I'm going to try and get everyone from over there actually. Can you hear me? We're just doing, I want to introduce myself for people watching down here. If everyone who's over on the stands comes over and gets a seat, that'd be fantastic. Fantastic, we've got a few more people. What I'm going to do when everyone sits down is we're going to do a talk on using social media for Small Business Saturday, which is essentially every single business is in this room's Christmas Day. It's a big, obviously, we want to make this the biggest day for your small business. I'm going to give you a little intro to myself, and I want to just pick a few people out and find out what type of businesses you actually run. Yeah, we're just waiting for a few more people, for the people on Periscope over there. Sorted, I think we've got everyone now. I'm going to give a quick intro to myself. I'm Alex McCann from Ultram HQ. We're a social media company that's been running for just over 5 years. I've always been involved in marketing in some way. So I started out as a journalist in 1999 and then moved into events marketing as well. And what I found throughout those years is that social media was at the core of everything we did. So we'd get a full page in a local paper, would get a radio interview, and what was actually driving people through doors on events was actually Facebook and MySpace back in the day. It was always social media, it was always online, it was always forums, it was always message boards. So I've set up Ultram HQ, which obviously, you're from Manchester, Ultram is at the end of the tram line. And Ultram is this small town, and in 2009, what we actually found we were doing is we were discussing things in the pub on a Friday night, and it wasn't ending up in the local newspaper until 6 weeks later. And I wanted that to change. I wanted the news to be fast, here and now. And I want to help small businesses. A few stats. This year I've worked with 173 people on social media training. I spend about 200 hours a month delivering successful social media campaigns for clients. We've worked with some really, really large businesses like Manchester Arndale, the University of Manchester, the NHS, but a lot of what we actually do is spend time with businesses like yourself, small businesses that might be setting up for the very first time. And they're setting up a business from the kitchen table, from the dining room table, and what they actually want to find out is how do we get more customers through doors, how do we actually give that brand awareness? Because if obviously you pick up the traditional media, it's crime story this and crime story that, and you don't want to cover a lot of the businesses like yourselves unless you can afford to pay a few £100 for a PR company each month. So what we want to do is actually do that. So I'm going to talk, what we're going to get today is my thoughts on social media and where it is at the moment, and I'm going to give you some tips to actually make the best of this day here. So the first thing I want to actually talk about is everyone in this room managing the social media? So I can just ask for a show of hands, who's actually happy with what they're doing on social media at the moment? Who thinks they're getting real results from it? So there is maybe a third of you, a quarter of you that have put your hands up there that actually are happy with it. So that means there's about 75% of you that aren't currently happy with what you're doing at social media. Now, that brings a question is, are you managing your social media? And what I always find, if you actually just old school, this is going back to when you were at primary school, look at a dictionary, look at the definition of what manage actually means. And there's actually two definitions of the word manage. The first is to actually be in charge of, to actually run. So are you in charge of your social media, or are you the second definition, which is just actually coping with or muddling through? And what I find is most people when it comes to social media, they're just muddling through, they're dabbling with it. They're not measuring it, they don't know what's working, they don't know what is working. And what we actually do, and the alternative word for manage is actually to dominate, to run, to take care of, to take over. And that's what you've really got to do as a small business, because you set up a business because you love what you do. So you're doing toys, or you're doing vintage teas, or you're doing IT infrastructure and startup growth, and you love what you do as a business, but you're not a marketing director. You've been giving yourself that role to do your marketing. So we've really got to turn all these small businesses. Literally, you can compete with the big boys via social media. You literally can, because when you think of large companies and social media, you have to get things for approval. It takes about 2 weeks just to okay this post, and it's all quite slow and sluggish, and you can be dynamic with what you're doing as a small business. You can just change like that. So what I normally find businesses talk about is this thing called, is there a return from social media, or does social media work? And I think quite often that's just a barrier to the conversation. Because if I actually took you, if we walked out of Granada Studios right now and went onto any street around the old studios, I could probably show you examples of businesses, small businesses like you, that are working on every single street. So it does work. The question is, does your social media work? Is it working for you? Is it driving people through doors, people to your website, people to your events? So what I actually say is, social media, it's not about ROI, return on investment, it's actually about return on effort. So sort of flip it and think, are you getting a return on effort? Because you've got to put the time in. It really is a big time investment. So when we're thinking about the 5th of December, we need to be thinking about social media now. We need to be a beginning, a middle and end. And this is the beginning. We need to be previewing this. In events, we used to talk about the 6-week lead-in on social media, because things change. At least you're looking at 3 weeks lead-in. So invest the time on social media. At least half an hour a day, sometimes an hour on a day. You've got to put the time and effort. It's like face-to-face networking. If you just turn up to one event a year, you're probably not going to get any business from a traditional networking event. If you turn up every week or bi-weekly or monthly and see the same faces and they see you and get to know you as a person or as a business, they're going to buy from you. So return on effort is the first part of it. And adaptability is the other part of it. I know you mentioned that you had, what was it, 60,000 Facebook likes? 66, that's great for a small business, but what you probably, a lot of business, and you probably found it yourself as well, is the rules change. Obviously, you can't rely on Facebook as much as you used to, because Facebook want you to pay now. They flip the circles, and it used to be everything was free. We used to get Facebook, and customers used to come through, and they flip the rules, and suddenly, if you're relying on Facebook, the reach that you probably used to get on 20,000 fans was probably higher than it is now on 60,000 fans. So you've got to be adaptability. And what I think on that is, you've got to have at least more than one channel of your marketing. So you can't just rely on Facebook, you've got to go on Twitter now, which you can see you were doing because we tweeted you before. And you've got to go on Instagram, and you've got to go on Periscope, and all these different platforms. And you've got to be adaptable, because all these platforms change. So keep on top of what's happening. So when someone like me goes, you've got to be on Periscope down there, and that can broadcast you to the world, we're not saying that because we're just trying to sell you something else. We're telling that because the world is changing, and if you did what you used to be doing 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you'd still be chucking money at the local newspaper and still wasting your money. So we've got to change that, and social media is no different than anything else. You've got to think hyper-local. I'm going to touch on this later. So where's everyone from in Manchester? Manchester's a big city. I know you're from Bidsbury/Altrincham. Where's everyone else from? Are we all from the suburbs? Chorlton. Chorlton's great for social media.
Chorlton as well.
Another Chorlton. Everyone's from Chorlton. Anyone else? Any other towns? Where? Droylsden. The other side. So we've got all these local towns, and again, I keep referring back to traditional media. We used to read the Sale and Altrincham Messenger to find out what's going on in the Sale and Altrincham. We used to read the Chorlton, whatever the local paper is, to read on that, and the Droylsden one as well. People are going online. You've got to think hyper-local. One of my clients has this hashtag, world famous within 5 miles, because there's enough customers for all our businesses, for small businesses, to win over those clients locally. So we've got to think locally. So use local hashtags, the hashtag Altrincham, hashtag Chorlton, hashtag Droylsden, and you'll find all the local businesses and all the local papers that are actually discussing what goes on locally in your area. So hyper-local is really important for a lot of small businesses, unless obviously you're national e-commerce, etc., and then it goes wider. And think niche. What is it that's unique about your business, and only your type of business, that you can stand out on for Small Business Saturday? Because I think a lot of people are probably going to go down the discount route. We've got 15% off here or 20% off here. What can you do unique on this event? Have you got an event that you can do something unique and draw people into it, talking about what you're doing in your physical environment? Or something on your website, something that only applies to your business or your business or your business? Because the discount route is something that so many businesses do, but there's so many unique things that you can pull out of that. So what we're going to be doing on the day is tweeting about local small businesses for the whole day, and then obviously using the hashtag SmallBizSat UK. And we want to support those. It fits in with what we do as our ethos on social media. We might be periscoping some people as well, and actually go and do interviews with small local businesses. So, what I'm going to do now is give you a few handful, that's my thoughts on social media. I'm going to give you a few tips. The Twitter tip, I've touched on this before about local hashtags. Literally, look on your local hashtag every single day and go out there and engage, because so many people on Twitter are just broadcasting, doing sales messages, and they're treating it like traditional advertising. Actually, I tweet on average, about 43 times a day. Of that, 70% of those are engaging tweets, actually having conversations with people. So think about it again, in your physical environment. The moment someone walks in to your shop, you don't just go and sell at them saying, buy this. You actually go and talk to them and talk about their interests, their wants, their needs, what they're interested in. And it's a perfect platform, Twitter, to have one-to-one conversations with people. And that's where the value comes from it. Again, think back to traditional networking. You have a chat with someone at a 6 a.m. breakfast meeting about how good or bad the breakfast is. You don't just go in on the sales pitch on there. So again, have these conversations and build relationships with people, because people like to buy off small businesses, but they don't like to be sold to. So, Facebook tip. Facebook and Twitter, I think, are entirely different platforms in that I always think of Twitter as a broadsheet, like a broadsheet newspaper, and Facebook I think is a bit tabloidy. It's a bit cheap and nasty. But it does it works for small businesses still. I think the reach is still there. I think people are complaining about organic reach because they're so used to having it free. But if you did a post that used to reach 5,000 people, and now you're reaching 2,000 people, I wouldn't dismiss 2,000 people, because think how long it will take you to go and deliver flyers to someone's door for 2,000 people. Even if it's 200 people, that could be one person that buys from you. So I don't think the key is not to give up. What the key is also to do, look at local, hyper-local communities in Facebook groups as well. There's groups on there, I know there's one in our local area called Hale and Altrincham General. And people are always looking for small business, and it doesn't matter whether it's your business. If someone's going on there saying, can you recommend a plumber? Can you recommend an electrician? And you're recommending that person, and they're thinking of you by just giving that recommendation. It's about networking. So you're recommending a business that isn't your own, but when that plumber or electrician goes out to do the job, they're then thinking, that person gave me the recommendation. I'll mention them next time I see someone. So it's about giving, the whole giver's gain thing. You've got to give something to get something back. And Facebook groups, there's hyper-local communities everywhere. LinkedIn, I'll touch on briefly. For B2C, it's not traditionally seen as a B2C platform. People always go, oh, LinkedIn, it's someone in a suit with a tie on. LinkedIn, I personally, if I was a high street shop, a restaurant, a retailer, I would be on LinkedIn, and I'll tell you why. I'll be on LinkedIn because you're going to have so many people knocking at your door saying, I'm an expert in this, I'm an expert in that, come and buy from me. I door knock all the time. It's a way to meet new businesses. You should be on LinkedIn to check those person's credentials out, because there's so many people that I've met, local businesses, that have been scammed by someone who says they're an expert and amazing. You've got to use it, and if you don't use that, you won't be able to see the testimonials from people, you won't be able to see the recommendations, and those recommendations are probably people that live in the same town as you or nearby, and you know them. So it builds on the trust. So that's how I'd use LinkedIn for B2C. For B2B, it's building yourself up as an influencer, as someone to share information on, to actually give your insight to things. So it's similar to talking at an event like this. You can go in there and talk about things, and you can be promoting Small Business Saturday on there. Tell all your clients, if you're an accountant or a solicitor, you're going to have B2C clients, so you can then go and say, you should be involved in this event. Go, this is what it's about, this is the ethos, is it? It's about supporting businesses like you. If you're doing that and your competitors aren't, you're still giving added value to those people. So that's LinkedIn. Blogging. How many people in the room currently blog for their business? Again, about a third of the people blog. If I didn't blog, probably I wouldn't have a business. That's, as I said, I used to be a journalist, but it's about imparting information and communicating ideas. There's a big American social media guy called Gary Vee, or Gary Vaynerchuk, and he says all companies now are media companies. You just happen to do different roles. So you're an estate agent, no, you're a media company that happens to be an estate agent, you're a media company that happens to be an accountant. You're actually giving wisdom and advice, and it doesn't matter that there's 100 people around the world that are giving similar-ish advice. people still want to buy local. So when you're giving it, and it's your unique spin on it as well. So I would recommend, think about your customers' wants, think about your customers' needs, think about the frequently asked questions that people have, and actually then write content and write blogs. When people type something into Google, because they don't always just type job title and location, they don't just type Altrincham accountant, they type in how to better manage my finances, Manchester or something. I'm found from all around the northwest, from people just typing social media training Manchester, but then there's about 200, 300 keywords of various phrases that people type in and come to my website off each. So think of a content strategy and think of all the articles and all the frequently asked questions you write and do it weekly, blog weekly. I can't emphasise how important it is. I still get work at blogs I wrote in 2012 because Google layers it up and it's about layering and layering and layering. And that works for B2C or B2B on there. And lastly, because we're all on it at the moment, Periscope tip. It's relatively new. It launched on March. Again, we are all small business owners. We are the faces behind the businesses in many occasions. There's only one of us working for it, so there's a small number of employees. We are that business. Periscope is what we're on now. We're live streaming to the world. I don't know how many people have viewed it throughout the whole thing, but literally you can go and actually do some live streaming and you can go and do Q&As back and forth. So I've literally sat there, I work at home, I've sat there and done a Periscope and done Q&As on social media to the world. And what happens is, you've got to think long term. Nothing on social media is instant, but I'll give you one example of one thing we did. We ran an event in Altrincham. It was a social media and PR marketing. It was a free event, but I went in Periscope as we were setting up. So as we were putting the pop-up banners on and everything like that, and I Periscoped at 8:30 in the morning, just said, this is what's going on, this is where we are. We had 2 people walk through the door an hour later, just from this platform that probably most of you aren't using at the moment. And just because I put my face to it and did it around the room like that, it does work, but you've got to put the effort in. It does take time to do things on Periscope a lot of the time. If you're doing a piece to camera, you've got to plan for the 10-15 minutes before, then you've got to do your 10-15 minutes there, and then you've got to try and do the follow-up and get the maximum exposure for it. So what I'm going to say, this is a great event. We all should be using social media to publicise it. We should be promoting your business. This is an opportunity. Get the people next door to you as well doing it. If you've got a physical premises, make sure you've got the people, because what we've got as a small business is a collective of businesses that should be working together. So in the old days, a butcher's, a candlestick maker and a baker should have been working together in social media, but usually what we find is these people just promote themselves. If we take one of the probably big success stories in Manchester, has everyone heard of Altrincham Market and the regeneration of Altrincham Market? That's where I'm from, but that works because there's probably about 86, 90 stakeholders involved in that, from councillors to the market stall holders to every single person that's involved in it. There's probably 86 or 90 people involved. You as a business are only maybe 1 or 2 people, but you've got the people that sit next to you, your suppliers, your customers, that can actually help you build that. So you can build your 90-person army and become Altrincham Market Part 2. You can do that, but you've just got to work together. So, on the event, there's a hashtag which is SmallBizSatUK. Start promoting it now, promote it all the day on the event and get everyone else to do it, because if you collectively, if it's just you and one voice, it's not going to work, but if everyone does it in your hometown, it's going to be massive. So, I think that's it. Any questions? Have we got time for questions? Yeah, has anyone got a couple of questions? For blogging, usually blog on your own website. There'll be a function, it's like a news page of your website sometimes. So you speak to your web designer and just ask them to add a blog section. I use WordPress on my website, and it's just like using Microsoft Word. You just add a new article and put it on there. But it should be part of your website, because what you want people to do is actually come to read that blog on your website and then see the About Us, the services section, and so on throughout it. So you use that as a portal to push people to your website, because no one wants to read, we do this all the time, they want to read some information, and then, yeah, do it on your own website is the best possible option.
Next question. I currently blog on my website, and I promote that via my social media, which is a relatively small audience at the moment. Do you have any tips for actually getting that in front of audiences that would actually find it interesting?
Audiences what?
Just any tips on getting blogs on your website, when your website's relatively unknown, in front of audiences that will be obviously interested
Yeah, what I would do on that is you've got to make a list of who are the tastemakers in your industry, who are the influencers in your industry. So I said before, I worked in music, and what we did then, when we did a blog and when we did articles, we wanted to get in front of the heads of XFM or the Hugh Stevens from Radio 1. So we engage with those. It's about the relationship building before they will then look at what you're doing. So you've got to have casual conversations rather than just go in and go, read my blog. You've got to build up the relationship, so they start following you, they start listening to what you're doing, and they naturally then, over time, will organically click on what you're doing and potentially share it. So it's build a relationship first before you go into the sell and look at my blog. If you just do the long term, I've had articles shared by like Mari Smith, who's like social media Facebook guru in America, and when I got shared on that, my traffic went up about something like 3,000% because she happened to share it, but I built the relationship first, so she shared it. So that's one. You got another question?
I'm working on my new website, but what would you say the best frequency is for blogs?
I would say weekly. I think it's weekly's enough to actually commit to it. I think that there are people I know that do it well and do it daily, but I know I personally haven't got the time, and most small business owners haven't. Any less frequently, and you just need to become regular. So every Monday you upload it on a Monday and do it weekly. But plan the content months in ahead. So when a title comes to you, just pick out your phone and just email a title to yourself, so you've got a list of titles. So I've got a bank of titles that will take me to the end of the year if I wanted to write them all now and distribute them. But yeah, weekly is by far the best.
And I've got one small one, because one thing I didn't hear was say about Instagram.
Oh yeah,
any good tips?
Touch on that. I try to give 5 tips.
It's just because that's the one thing I'm working on at the moment.
Yeah, Instagram, obviously, it's about the quality of the photo. I think just posting just for the sake of it, everything's about the quality, so no one likes anything average. If it's a product, you won't go buy an average product. You've got to do an amazing photo. It's got to be bright, vibrant. 11 hashtags are the optimum, apparently, on how many you should do. So you've got to describe what's in the picture, really, and just do it vibrant. And it depends what your audience is. Obviously, what's your business again?
It's mostly shorts, leggings, all bright lycra, sports performance.
What age does it appeal to?
Probably mostly female, anywhere between 18 and 30, but I'm older than that. So.
Yeah, so 18 to 30. It sounds a bit iffy, but I'll get the best looking people to wear those leggings and put it, because if you look at what's shared and liked, if you go on your Discover tab, it's all fairly good looking people. To be honest, it's a bit vain, but it is. And it's just people doing selfies, people doing that, but you've got to think of what audience really uses it.
Well, my niche is plus size.
Oh, is it?
I've noticed, not out of choice, but out of realization that because I am going up to the larger sizes, that is where I'm searched for most.
Look at the hashtags. Look at the hashtags that the sort of plus size models are using, and use those hashtags. Send out, again, get the brand endorsement. Send out the leggings to the people that your clients will aspire to or look up to as role models, and actually try and get them to wear them, and then get them to tag in. There's plenty of people that like free stuff on Instagram, and they've got a large following, will actually then go, oh, look at this. So it's again, but it's playing the long term. The whole thing about Instagram is it's hard because there's no click-through from it. The only click-through is on your bio. So I think there's rumours that Instagram are always looking at doing click-through links on an Instagram post. When that does, it'll be a game changer, because you will be able to actually do that, but that's not.
That's the problem, because it's not great. Well, it's creating
awareness, but not sales.
Success. That's what I mean.
So, yeah, it's a hard one. You've got to play the long game. People do buy from it. It depends on the demographic. So there's a question down here.
It's just good blog keeping habits, because I do have one on my website, but I haven't updated it in like a year. And it is simply because my website is WordPress, and I can do things like photos, and I can change product descriptions, but there's just something about that big wall of text that seems pretty daunting.
I think that it sounds simple, but the thing is to just get on and do it, because the more you blog, the more your writing skills improve. As I said, I used to be a journalist, so that side of things comes easy from idea generation, but for someone who isn't used to writing, the hardest bit is your introductory paragraph. Once you've got over that introductory paragraph, the rest will just flow, because you know what your business is and you know what it is. So if you can get over that introductory paragraph, 4 or 5 lines, and just think about it, you've got to seduce people. So think how, again, think like the tabloid newspaper, think how they pull you in. So going back to school and tell the beginning, a middle and an end. So get your beginning right, the meat is in the middle, and the end sums it up and does your sales bit. So it is going back to what you did at school. I think the school system, unfortunately, knocks all that creativity out of most people. So you're at primary school, you've got all this creativity, you're doing stories, you're doing paintings, you're doing that. You get to secondary school, it's all about remembering facts and figures, and it knocks the creativity out of it. So it's discovering your inner child and being creative, really, and just thinking of seducing people. So, any other questions? I personally haven't got any clients that generally use it at the moment. Again, for what you do in the fair is, it would be work, and people on Pinterest that are in purchase mode, they're creating boards for when they're moving house, or they're creating boards because they've got a new baby coming or such and such. So you've got to do, again, they're not salesy, but you've got to create mood boards that your products happen to be part of, that then actually they're pinning it in the finding and discovering it, and obviously hoping other people will pin it. It depends how much time you've got and how much is, because I've mentioned all these platforms, but every one of these platforms is taking an extra chunk of your day out. So I think Facebook is working for you, as you said before. Pinterest would be a nice platform for it. It has got the clickability that Instagram hasn't got, so people can buy it. And you've got to look at what other people are doing and be in front of their eyes. So look at the sort of, what age group is yours? Is it sort of 2? 40. So look at other parents groups and look at how you can get into if any of the mums groups are doing it. I don't know if mums are now raring to go do Pinterest, but look at what they're doing and just be in front of their faces and make sure, look at what they're doing and try and create similar boards and just get in there. But it's time investment on that one. So I think that's it. Thanks for coming, guys. Please do tweet both of us and use the hashtag. So it's SmallBizSatUK and I'm at UltimateHQ. If you took any pictures, what I want to actually do, everyone want to get on there. I want to take a picture of you and tweet it out, guys.